hit record and we are ready to go. So hello everyone. I am so excited to have you all here today. It is a lovely Tuesday and it is sunny in Buenos Aires, Argentina, and I am so happy to have you all on the line. And so today we are joined by a very special guest, Helen Sanchez, who is going to be talking about ageism. And, just some housekeeping rules to get us kicked off. Turn your cameras on, come off of mute. As I was saying before we got started, this is really about all of you. I'm just really here to guide the conversation, and that's why we have some pre-submitted questions to kick us off. But of course, please feel free to either come off of mute and ask your question, or if you don't feel comfortable, you can always drop it in the chat, and you can always write to me privately so that I can ask the question anonymously as well, to be, cognizant of everyone's privacy. And then just with that, if you do end up coming off of mute, I just want you to know that you will show up on the recording and you will show up on YouTube as we are live streaming this to YouTube. And so my name is Nicole, actually. Sorry, I forgot to edit this. So if you want to message me privately, you can go to the chat box and hit the drop-down menu until you find my name, Nicole Felter. And this is being recorded, so we will send a follow-up email with a link to this, and I will also, include Helen's upcoming office hour session as well. And keep up with us on social. You can find us at PowerToFly on any handle. So on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, wherever, you can find us there. And then, please feel free to subscribe to our YouTube channel where we have these daily events popping up. And so with that, I'm going to pass it to Helen Sanchez. I'm so excited to have you here. And if you have the opportunity to attend Diversity Reboot, she also spoke there about ageism in the workplace. And so Helen has even started her own consulting service for women who are over 40 and trying to get back into work. And I am not doing a good job of explaining it, so I'm going to hand it off to you. And I'm also very nervous to pronounce it wrong. So I'm going to hand it over to you, Helen, and let you introduce yourself and everything that you're doing.
Okay. Well, I've been in recruiting and from a perspective of directly recruiting and management for many years. I went back to school and studied women and gender studies and African American studies. In doing research at school, I found I did research on intersectional age discrimination in the workplace. So in addition to my research and my studies and my personal experience, I decided that I wanted to work with, as a career counselor, with women over 40. And so I founded Tanagi. And so I've been doing that, and I've enjoyed over the years. I've always enjoyed greatly working with people in recruiting on both sides, the clients and the candidates. It's a wonderful experience, just as seeing where all of you are from and having the opportunity to interact with all of you. I always enjoyed learning about people and helping them. So that's what I've decided to do. And that's what I move forward with. So I'm excited to speak with all of you today. I see there are so many places that you're from. It's quite exciting. And I hope that the information that we cover will be helpful to you.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Helen. And yes, we have people from Austin, Texas, Hawaii, New Jersey, Florida, New Jersey, Chicago, Los Angeles, North Carolina, California, LA, DC. So we've got a lot of people on the line. And so, again, I'm going to say this a couple of different times on the chat. Please feel free to come off of mute at any time. We have some pre-submitted questions here, but, if you want to follow up on any of these pre-submitted questions, or if you want to ask a question yourself, it's all about you today. And so to get us kicked off and started, let's dive into this first question. So how can I show my experience on a resume without exposing my age?
I know over the years, we've all become accustomed to the certain types of resumes that we use, but that's changed dramatically. And so we really need to adjust to that, basically, so that we can't be identified or put in that little box. But as far as your experience, the best thing to do is begin with a professional summary, not an objective. Objectives are gone, or should be. Make note of your achievements or your areas of expertise beneath your professional summary. Your experience should not go back more than 10 or 15 years unless you've been in a particular job longer than that. Really, that's all the company's interested in, and it avoids dating you. Oh, you've worked for 40 years. Oh, so just 10 or 15 years are more than enough. Remember to include your soft skills, such as adaptability or collaboration. Those are the things that, with the experience that you put in, those are the things that become second nature to you and become very valuable. I've often told people that I've worked with for placement, when they start a job, to always document what it is that they're doing every day, because at the end of your journey, you're not going to remember everything you've done. And there's so many skills and so many projects and other things in a company that you make a contribution to. And it's important that you represent those when you're selling yourself. So your accomplishments should also indicate concrete metrics. So for example, if you worked on a project that improved employee engagement, you need to say specifically, worked on this project and employee engagement increased 25% in the last quarter, so that you have specific results. Make sure that you read the job description thoroughly so you can highlight the appropriate skills that are suited to that job and that meet the requirements, in the hopes that you'll get past the applicant tracking system and into the hands of the hiring manager. So that's important.
Perfect. And when I first had the opportunity to speak with you, Helen, and you shared this tip with me of keeping a journal and making sure that you're note taking everything that you're doing, that I've never realized how important that is and will be in the future when I try to present myself, and looking at also those numerical steps, right? Because I think sometimes when we're in the process, it's easy to try to look back and try to configure the data of what we've been doing. But it's easier if you can look at where you started and just note the numbers from there, the date or wherever, and then look at them, moving backwards. And I wouldn't have realized that unless you told me. So hopefully, that helps someone else today on the line.
Yes, I think especially when you're young and starting out, you don't think about it and you just do it. And every day you do what's put in front of you, and especially women, they just do what they need to do. And really, we absolutely can't remember everything that we've done, everything we've learned, the contributions we've made, unless we make notes of it.
Definitely. Thank you so much. And if anyone has any questions they would like to follow up with, please feel free to come off of mute and interrupt me at any time. And until somebody feels comfortable asking a question or anything, let's go right on to the next one. So what are the best resume writing strategies to get around age discrimination? I know you did touch about this a little bit more previously, but I don't know if you had anything else that you wanted to add here.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely, Nicole. Because I think when I mentioned how much resumes have changed, and I mentioned beginning with a professional summary, some of the other things are frequently today, and this is a big change for someone like me, you don't put your physical address. You put the heading should be your name, your phone, your email, your cell phone, your email, your LinkedIn link. And if you're going to only market yourself locally, you can put city, state, and zip. But especially because everything online is online, you don't need a specific location address. And it's best not to include it, just to put that information. So that's one of the first things. That's a big change. Something that's I've seen over the years, and this is not new, but some people have done, not very often, but never include personal details. Never include whether you're married, single, children, pets, whatever it is, it's of no relevance and not necessary. You should keep your resume to a 2-page maximum, if at all possible, ideally. And if your education and certifications should be at the bottom and should not have any dates next to them, so that they can be aligned with an age. So those are some of the tips that some of the changes and some of the ways to conform your resume to what's going on today. That kind of heading and your professional summary, your experience next, again, 10 to 15 years, your education at the bottom, certifications if you have any. If you did volunteer, that you can certainly put that on, but no dates associated with that.
So it wouldn't take you out of the running if you don't include start dates and end dates for positions and companies.
No, I'm sorry. The dates for professional experience you can include. It's only on education and certification that you should not put your dates. If you graduated in 1990, it's not necessary to put it there. So for your professional experience, you can put start and end dates. That's part of the reason you're only going back 10 to 15 years, because you don't want to go further than that, but you do want to include the dates for your professional experience.
But with LinkedIn so prevalent today, everything on LinkedIn has a date. And I've talked to different people that say, yeah, I always check LinkedIn first. And if it matches up, then I trust them. If it doesn't, then I don't. So how do you go around that?
Are you referring to work dates or education?
You can't put anything on LinkedIn without a date.
Yeah, I honestly haven't tried on LinkedIn. The only thing that I suggest when you're filling out an application and they require an education completion date, if it's of a concern to you, you can put in 9999 and usually get past the application. Honestly, on LinkedIn, I don't know whether you could do that, but you could try.
I was able to put mine in without a date. I graduated college in '94. I don't know if you guys can hear me.
Yes, we can.
Okay, sorry.
This is Tina.
Yeah.
I don't have dates on my LinkedIn either with my 2 degrees. So you can put stuff in there without a date.
Yeah, I think jobs you cannot, but as far as education and certificates, I think that there's a way to do it, because I just did it recently, but I don't have it up right now, so I couldn't tell you exactly how to do it, but yeah.
So
Well,
you can leave out dates on LinkedIn or not?
I think some people said they have.
Okay.
And I know there are
For education, yeah.
for education, not for
Yeah,
employment.
for education.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
And I know there are a number of tools online where you can kind of update your LinkedIn, or you can look at some YouTube videos on LinkedIn that might be of help. But yes, some of our guests here have said that they've left off education dates. So yeah.
Yeah, and that's an interesting call out. We have a couple of different questions in the chat as well. But Joan says that you can omit dates on LinkedIn. So maybe Joan can provide a little bit more information around that. Or as Helen said, you can always go to YouTube. I know that's been super helpful. That's like
how
one
I
of the
learned
biggest
it.
search. Yeah, right? It's one of the biggest search platforms now. How to change my tire. How
Yes.
to, I've learned countless things on there. Thank you, YouTube. Perfect. And so we had a couple of questions that came in the chat. So thank you everyone for coming off of mute. I love this. It's so fun when everyone gets to participate and share their experiences. So Mike asked, are there any formatting examples that we can turn to? Many of us learned how to structure these documents a while ago, and updating or streamlining our information could all be for nothing if the format of our document is outdated.
Well, I think honestly, if you go to, I know Monster, maybe Indeed, Glassdoor, and ask for some, I know Monster did. I'm again not sure on Indeed and Glassdoor whether they offer it, but you could actually search on how to format your resume, and they would show you examples. You can also go to Google Docs. You can go to Word documents. They all have templates.
Perfect. And, you know, actually, that's a really good call out. Maybe one of our office hour sessions, we can focus on this as well, of how to structure, you know, and Helen can share some examples of what she's seen be successful. Perfect. So thank you. And I just want to call out, you know, if anyone has a question they want to come off of mute, I know we have a lot of people on the line. So if you want to, feel free to write in the chat and say, you know, I'd like to come off of mute, just so we can kind of keep it organized and so no one's talking over each other, of course. And so we had another question come in from Jen that said, how do you handle it when an employer expects you to have built up a LinkedIn profile and even ask for a link, but you do not have one?
It's an interesting question. I think that in the job market today, it's important. I mean, it's a good tool, LinkedIn. So I'm not sure why you wouldn't have one. But if you prefer not, then I think you just have to say that you'll provide them with any information that they want to have, that they ask you for, that you'll be able to give them any answers they'd like, but you do not participate in LinkedIn. But it's an excellent tool for networking, and networking is really how a lot of jobs are acquired, and it's a good place for you to do that. So, but I would say just you would just have to offer to provide them with whatever information they wanted, and maybe point out, I'm not sure what kind of job you're applying for, but unless you're going to be using LinkedIn within the job, then there really isn't a need for it. So you can say, you know, I can, this is what I'm doing in this job. This is my skill and experience. This is what I bring to the table. I'm very confident that I can handle all of this. And LinkedIn is not a part of it. So I just choose not to participate.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Helen. And we had somebody request to come off of mute. So Colleen, go right ahead and come off of mute.
Hi all. Yeah, I mentioned this in the text, but also I'm going to try and look who I used as a company that I just hired to update my resume. They also will take a look at your LinkedIn and update that. So for those of you that aren't familiar with LinkedIn or have trouble with that, and it wasn't very expensive. I'm going to say a couple hundred, maybe $200-300, but there's a lot of companies out there that will do the cover letter, the resume, the LinkedIn, and really sort of cater it to what you're looking for. So, you know, there's a lot of resources out there, I guess is what I wanted to say.
Perfect. Thanks for sharing, Colleen. And yes, if you can drop that in the chat, or even if you want to send it over to me on LinkedIn, I will include with everyone in the follow-up email. Perfect. And so we had one other question come in before we go on to the other ones. This one came in from Dodie. They asked, I've been in my current position for 15 years. Prior to that, I owned my own business for 12 years. Should I include both?
I think you should include your current position, and then you can add a summary about, without dates, about what you did in your own business and what services you provided, what skills you acquired, what you were responsible for, just an overview of what benefits it gives you as far as experience and skills and bringing things to the table again. So I think you should just have your 15 years and then reference that either in a cover letter or post your 15 years.
Perfect. So thank you everyone for coming off mute. Yeah, go ahead.
May I add to that kind of question? So, so as I've been working, most of my experience started in, unfortunately, 95 to 2011. Well, then I was a stay-at-home mom for a while, and most of my experience has been in human resources. And then I did other part-time jobs that were not HR related. So now I'm trying to get back into HR, and I've done a couple of jobs, but they've only been about 2 years. So now that I want to get back into HR, all my good experience is back in 95 to 2011. How do I get back in HR if I only include 10 years and it's not on my resume?
Well, again, that, as I mentioned,
15 years.
Right. If you're two items, if you're in your current position longer than 15 years, then you would have to go back further. In your instance, was the 95 to 2011 all one position?
Well, my first position was 1995 to 2005, so it was for 10 years. And then the next position was from 2005 to 2011, and then there was a layoff. So yeah, they were both 10-year jobs, and they were both in HR.
Okay. Well, definitely, I think when you do your professional summary, you have to highlight your HR experience because that's what you want to get back into. when
Yeah.
you do your as far as your achievements or your expertise, it's going to again be related to where you want to go, to what you want to do. So when you get down to the experience, definitely I would say the 2005 to 2011 one should
Right.
definitely go on there. But you can, in your professional summary and in your areas of expertise, you can include what you've done. I don't know if they overlap or if you had similar responsibilities and similar experiences. The only thing that the previous position would give you is a tenure, which you can explain in an interview or on an application going back further. But the 2005, 2011 should cover as far as the skills and what you want to get back into.
Okay. Yeah, that's what I'm afraid of people seeing it and going, oh, she's old.
Right. No, yeah, that's yeah, unfortunately, that's the way people think today.
Yeah.
So again, so I think what's crucial for you is the professional summary and the areas of expertise, and then that last position in HR, but not necessarily the one before.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
I was going to add to that, to Angela's, is that depending on what you were doing since you got laid off to current, you have to be able to manipulate the story to show how what you were doing was still somehow HR related. So we do a lot of stuff that we don't always understand it relates to work. And we just have to know how to tell the story correctly, that just because you weren't in corporate doesn't mean that you weren't doing HR stuff. So sometimes you have to think about what you've been doing since you were laid off to now, and figuring out how that story can relate to how, what HR and different things like that. So also, if you've been laid off for a period of time, it's also good to create your own company. And then you can put on there that you work for your company, and you can tell that story underneath that company, what you've been doing that was, HR related. So there's opportunities and different ways to shape and tell your story when you've kind of been out of the market for a while.
Well, and I did do like volunteer work, and I volunteered for HOA, and I volunteered at my children's school. So I did keep myself busy, and I was able to add things to my resume in between those times. So I was able to still do HR related things. So thank you.
Well, everything you do, Angela, the volunteer work included, again, all provides you with skills and experience. You just really have to sit down and evaluate what it is you've done. Like if you managed an event at school or something, or if you were responsible for finances in a trip or whatever it was, it's all skills that you can apply. And it's really in how you phrase it and how you present it. So a lot of it.
Yeah, thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you to everyone for coming off of mute and sharing your resources and everything. I know we had a request to distribute the transcript. I'm not sure I'll be able to do that, but I can grab some of the resources that were shared and definitely, distribute those in the rewatch email. Perfect. So, Helen, getting to the next question. What is the best way to handle the overqualified for this position question or comment?
I would say that you can respond by indicating your experience and knowledge that you bring to the challenge of the job. You can reference your passion for the company from your research, which hopefully you did before you applied. Before you applied, you should have researched. You can see the projects, what drew you to the company to apply. The work that they're doing, that you're eager to apply your skills to and continue their work. So basically, you're asking, when you're in an interview, you ask questions yourself, you get information. What you really need to do is take your skills and wrap them around whatever they're trying to achieve and how your skills will apply to that, and reassure them that your background is suitable for what they're trying to achieve, and that your passion for their company, for the project, will really be challenging for you. And you need to sound confident and enthusiastic about the opportunity, and how, what made you choose the application to them. You can think about that before you go in. Was it the challenge? Was it because the project they're working on is important to you? It's going to enhance the career that you've had so far. Those are the things that you need to think about, and that way you can answer that question very easily when you're sitting in front of them.
Perfect. Thank you for that. It's just so baffling that as women, we have to deal with, right? Like, it's just mind-boggling, because I am sure men don't go through the same thing, you know. Experience means more qualified, whereas in being a woman, you're overqualified, or I'm not going to be able to pay you as much as you want, and this consistent, you know, underselling of us and how much we're worth and our value. So thank you for talking about this, Helen. Perfect. And leading into this question, you know, why was age 40 picked as the threshold?
Well, when they were contemplating the Age Discrimination and Employment Act before it was written in 1965, they wanted to do research, and they tasked the Secretary of Labor, Wirtz, to do research on why they thought that they needed to make this new law. When they did the research, Wirtz found out that age did impact the perception of employers, that they felt that your ability deteriorated as you got older, and they actually often barred workers who were in their 40s, their 50s, and their 60s. And they also used age limits to deny jobs to workers who were 45. So when they decided to pass the law in 67, they started with an age range from 40 to 65 initially. And then in 1978, they went to 40 to 70. And then in 1986, the cap was removed. So now it's just over 40. So, but that's how it started. They did the research, the Department of Labor, and they confirmed that there was discrimination, that people were being overlooked for jobs and were being not employed, or if they were employed, being barred from doing the continued work in those age ranges.
And you know, looking at that, did you feel that that's going to, you know, lower in the sense that maybe the new threshold is going to be 30? I mean, there's so much new technology that's coming out, and you know, when you're looking at the generations to come, they're, you know, raised on technology. And so do you feel that this is going to affect the workforce in the next 10 to 15 years? And I mean, especially women, right?
I think, I don't really think so, because it'd have to be an enormous shift in the societal construction of aging, and that in the perception of professionals, women age when they hit 40. And as I said on the last summit, and as I saw in my research, men are considered to age like fine wine, and women just age. So I think it will take longer than I'll see for that to change, to lower that below 40, because it would have to take the perception that that people are aging under 40, and I don't know that would happen very quickly.
Perfect. Thank you. And we have a question that came in the chat from Kathy that says, Helen, what specific loopholes does the ADEA law pose? And what are other ways besides the ATS, phone screens, etc., that we need to anticipate?
I'm sorry, what are some of the loopholes?
The ADEA law pose.
Well, the biggest loophole for employers is the requirement of documentation, and it has to be very specific. And if you can't provide it, then the law is not very effective for you. And when we all know, we've been in business long enough to know, many of us work for people who are, smart enough to know when not to say things. I work for someone who told a group of managers, I don't care what you say, but don't put it in writing where it will go to court. And so that's the problem, is that you need specific documentation. For example, if you're interviewing and someone is foolish enough to say, you're really too old for this. Okay, you that's it. You're good to go. You can go right to the EEOC. But unfortunately, people are more devious about getting around it. So yeah, it's the biggest loophole is the requirement of documentation.
Perfect. And then a subsequent question to that was, what are the ways besides the ATS, phone screens, et cetera, do we need to anticipate in the, job interview process?
Well, everything today is, or pretty much the majority is video interviews. So you have the phone screen, which some are not even, they're passing over phone screens today, or they have what they call recruiting coordinators do phone screens to determine whether the recruiter is actually going to talk to you. The applicant tracking system is your biggest hurdle, your first hurdle. And one of the important keys for that is to read the job description thoroughly, to understand, again, to evaluate your skills, to understand where they match. And when you write your resume, I write resumes and as part of my service, and it should be a basic, absolutely, you need a basic professional resume that you can count on. But when you look at a job description, you might have to tweak it to fit that job description so that you can get past the applicant tracking system. Another thing, if you're coming back into the workforce, or if you're trying to change careers, whatever it may be, a good idea would be to search for job descriptions and what you want to do or what you're capable of doing. Look at what they're doing today. And it doesn't have to be just in your market, because if you're just looking for a job description so that you can understand what they're looking for today, you can look anywhere in the country and pull those job descriptions and again, analyze the job description related to your experience and see where you overlap, where you have the skills that they're looking for, so that you can go in and create or have someone create your resume to meet what your goals are, because that's what's important, your goals. So, and again, beyond that, you have the video interviewing, which I think one of the most important things is to practice, whether you video yourself. You have to remember, despite if it's a video interview, an in-person interview, everything is being analyzed. It's how you carry yourself, how you speak, how you dress. It's all being analyzed to determine whether you are going to fit. I think it's important that the simplest thing, take your phone, video yourself and critique yourself and see if you present yourself younger and passionate, vibrant, energetic, all those things when you interview, so that you can do a good job on the video interviews.
Thank you for the tips. And I have to tell you, I think that is one of the hardest things to do. Hosting these, I get to rewatch myself a lot, and it is not my favorite task to do. I feel like it is so hard to look back at yourself and critique yourself. I have said that that's my nightmare before, like being stuck in a room and watching myself on video on replay. So, absolutely. But it's a good practice to do to get over that.
And it's kind of interesting, like, again, that the simplest things can be analyzed, like your body language. Like women tend to sit forward on a chair, men sit back and relax. And so it's a matter of practice and making yourself look comfortable, confident, and younger than you are. Depending on, for me, it would be the younger that I am.
Oh my gosh. It's just crazy that we have to think about this as women and, present ourselves as younger than we are and be more vibrant and be more energetic, but not too energetic, because you might scare them and you might come off as invasive. Right. So where's that line? But thank you for, including that, those
It
tips.
is a fine line. And I think you have to think about too, depending on, I know this is much easier said than done, but if someone's making those judgments and you're not comfortable, is that a place you really want to be? So that's just my last thought on that.
Totally, totally, totally. And so Josephine asked in the chat, do you think the video interviewing then leads to lookism and other forms of visual bias?
Well, I personally do. I think initially, pre-COVID, when video video interviewing started with, I think it was Higher Right was the first one that I knew. My thought was that it was definitely primarily for them to not, quote unquote, waste their time if you're out of their age range, or if you're not going to fit into their culture, and they're going to determine that on a video, which is very unfortunate because, as you said, when you look back, how many people are comfortable on video or confident enough to really pass that test? So I do think that that's absolutely the definite risk of video interviewing. And I think that there have actually been studies, again, where they've determined that it should almost be a blind study, a blind interview, where even in in-person interview, they can't see the person, they can only interact and speak with the person, and then hiring decisions change, percentages change. So there is, of course, and I've always said this in my work, whether it's a client or a candidate, your experience is what you bring to the table. Whatever you've encountered, I used to say to recruiters I managed, if you have a candidate who had a bad experience with a recruiter, then they're going to think that you're just the same. So you're going to need to prove yourself. And it's the same in video interviewing. The people that are looking at these videos have a history they come to the table with. And sometimes they make their decisions tarnished by that. So is it fair? No. It's unfortunate, but yeah.
Perfect. Thank you so much for that insight. And we've got some really interesting chat happening in the chat box. Joan sharing some personal stories and just some comments. One of the ones I specifically wanted to read was Kathy said that I also find that the age of the hiring manager or the recruiter matters. The younger they are, the more selective they are. And so there's even articles out there which discuss this on the internet. And so I don't know if you have anything you wanted to add there or say there.
Well, I think again that that's probably, yeah, that, absolutely there are articles, and I've seen some of that myself in visiting companies when I was working just last year. And so I think it's absolutely there, but I think that when we're looking for a new opportunity, we should step back from generalizing, because we need to be very positive and move forward with the assumption that we're going to knock their socks off. So no matter who they are. So, and again, when you meet the hiring manager who's of that mindset, do you want to be there? So you can be as selective as they can. But I think we need to go in and say, yes, that does occur. Yes. I don't know. Are the 30-somethings running the world now? I'm not sure. Nicole, you can answer that. So I think we just need to take it, each individual case, and not let it tarnish our approach. I think we need to stay positive and hope that, that's not the hiring manager that we meet. So, and again, that's the reason that, as I said, everything you do is going to be analyzed, whether it's how you walk in, it's what you wear, it's this, we've seen it in politics, how the women are analyzed. I mean, it's an entirely different approach from men. So unfortunately, it's what we have to deal with. And so you just need to keep all of those things in mind. You don't want to go in, again, for those of us who have raised children and they're grown, you don't want to go in with the mindset that you're anybody's mother. You don't, just because they're young and sitting behind that desk. If you've done your research and the company that you're applying to and interviewing with if you respect them and you are excited about the work they do, you have to trust that the person that they chose to sit behind that desk has the capability to do the job, and go in with that mindset rather than, oh no, another youngin'.
I love it. I love it. That's great. Thank you so much, Helen. You're getting some praise for everything you've been saying. And we had a question that came in privately, and somebody had asked, do you recommend that we all occasionally apply to jobs in order to stay fresh and in practice?
That's an interesting question. I definitely believe that you should frequently keep your resume updated. That's very important. And again, tracking what you've accomplished, what you've done, and updating that on your resume, that should always be at the top of your list. I think that it's certainly good to keep an eye on the job market, to know what's going on, to see what's out there, to see if there's something that's of interest to you, because we all want to be challenged. We all want to be appreciated. So I don't know whether I would say it's worth it to apply just to apply, because basically you're wasting your time and theirs. But I think you definitely should keep abreast of what's going on in the job market, what's out there, and see if there's something that's of interest to you. And then certainly there's no harm in applying, because at the end of the day, if you go to the interview and you don't like what they're telling you, you can say, thank you, but no, I'm good now. And it's wonderful to be in that position, be able to say, no, thank you, I'm good now. So I think there's absolutely keeping your resume updated and keeping yourself abreast of what's going on in the job market are very important.
Yes, definitely. And I just wanted to add something else here. As you know, when I started off at PowerToFly, I was working in recruitment, and in regards to LinkedIn, one of the things that I found really useful when searching for talent is if somebody had actively searching or actively looking into other positions. So, you know, tagging on there, Helen, I think if you're interested in maybe trying to stay fresh and in practice, it might be helpful to put actively searching or alluding to that somehow on your LinkedIn, so people will reach out to you. I mean, a lot of times recruiters will reach out to you if you're a passive talent as well, but that way you can also always practice different interviewing sessions or something like that that can be helpful for you.
Absolutely, Nicole. And that is the beauty of LinkedIn, again, is that you can do that networking. And honestly, through a large part of my career, I did make a lot of changes, and usually someone came to me, I didn't go to them. And on LinkedIn, that's just the beauty of it, that people see you and then they go, oh, look at that background. And they reach out to you, and you just never know when that opportunity that's really going to kind of tickle your fancy is going to happen. So I think absolutely that's a great idea and important.
Awesome. Thank you. I'm glad you liked the idea. So hopefully that helps someone else. Alexandra put in the chat that they keep hearing that recruiters don't want to talk to anyone actively searching and prefer passive candidates. In my personal experience, I can't say that that's totally been true. I can tell you that from what I know, it's a lot easier to source people if they say they're actively searching, because it just makes everything an easier process, because it's a lot harder to convert somebody who's passive, just because they're probably gainfully employed and more than likely happy in their position. So hopefully that was helpful.
Yes, absolutely.
And,
yeah, passive candidates. Yeah, they are the tough ones. Absolutely.
Yes, they are. And especially when you're looking at a more senior woman to fill a position, you know, they're probably happy in their current job. And so it's definitely, so I've seen that it's a lot more helpful to say you're actively searching or alluding to that, and usually including that, you know, in your headline or in your the first few lines of your bio. Perfectly. Oh, and they said definitely makes sense to me, but supposedly you don't want to announce that you're unemployed. Interestingly enough, I don't know if it always seems that you're unemployed or if you're just looking to maybe change. Obviously, you might just want to be cognizant of that with your current employer as well, to make sure that they don't see that, and then, you know, you might run into issues there. So yeah,
They might
Perfect.
appreciate you more, Nicole.
they might, and then they might want to keep you around, or they might say, okay, maybe it's time to cut her loose. So definitely do not take my advice on there. I'm not a professional like Helen, so that's just my little bit of information there. And with that, so what is the best way to address a career pivot within a resume, especially when you have a career gap due to a break? And I know you talked a little bit about this before with Angela, but I don't know if there was anything you wanted to add here.
Well, I think that, again, you need to look at transferable skills for what your goal is, what your career goal is. And this is something I do with people when we're talking about their resume. What is it you want to do? What is it you loved in your work? What is it you're trying to get away from? You have to evaluate all of those things. And in the process of trying to create a resume that's appropriate, you also have to look at the job descriptions, as I mentioned before. Search the job descriptions, or if you know what what your goal is, what you're trying to get into, then it's a great deal of self-examination and keeping track of those. What did I do? Where does it transfer to what I want to do? As far as the career gap, you have to be completely honest. You have to indicate the career gap. But with a career gap, whatever you've done in that gap, whether it's volunteering, as Angela did, whether it's caregiving, whether it's raising children, you have skills that you've acquired from all of those experiences. You've managed a household, perhaps. You've managed medical billing, perhaps. You've managed just calendars of people in and out all day. So you need to, again, self-examination and say, what did I do here? Sometimes it's estate planning. There's so many things that you could have done that, again, especially women tend to say, well, I just did it. Okay, but you need to understand what you did is valuable, and it's experience, and it provides skills. And so if those are applicable to your goals, you need to include them. But either way, when you reference your career gap, you need to explain, not on a personal basis, but from a professional perspective. If you were a caregiver, if you were parenting, whatever it is, you can just reference that. It's really no one's business beyond that. But I think it's good to be honest about that.
Yes, yes, yes. And I want to echo that a million times, because I think that we always discount ourselves as women. And if you've been home taking care of elderly family members or children or whatever it's been for you that you took a break for, there are so many things that you learned in that time, like Helen said. So I really just want to echo that, because I think it is so, so, so important. And I just wanted to call out a couple things in the chat that Joan had mentioned when it comes to recruitment and using LinkedIn. She said that I don't put that she's publicly searching for a job. LinkedIn has a private option for recruiters, and then said that several HR coaches advise to use the private option for seeking. You can put the industries. Another reason why is because you don't want to come off like desperate, and recruiters can sniff that out. And they also mentioned their experience in having taken time off for caregiving for their break, and when they mentioned it, recruiters had no problem. And I think that's kind of the beauty now of coronavirus too, a little bit. No, it's giving a lot of visibility to what's going on, and I think this is going to be a really common theme coming up when people are having to balance between working from home and taking care of children, if that's your situation. And if you can't do it, you can't just not take care of your children, right? Like, there comes a point when sometimes you just have to make a choice, unfortunately.
Yes, and to add to that, you're absolutely correct, because women have the highest effect or impact from coronavirus, and children at home, and children being schooled at home. But also, if that's something that you're concerned with, you really need to, again, look at your value, look at what you've contributed, and then confidently maybe approach management and say, if you would rather stay on board, I would want to continue, but this is the structure that I'd have to do it in, and see if there's flexibility, and say, this is what I've done over the however many years, and so I'd like to continue that, but I need more flexibility. sometimes women are afraid to present that.
So true, unfortunately, but I'm really glad that we have women like you, Helen, that are doing amazing work and are, pushing us to be more confident in everything that we're doing, and, combating some of these obstacles that we face. So thank you. And with that, let's go on to the next question. So if you are looking for a job and you feel like you have been discriminated against, how do you validate your suspicions without looking like you were just whining because you didn't get the job?
Women never whine. No. Unfortunately, just as with age discrimination in a job, it's difficult to validate unless you have direct discriminatory documentation. If there was something that was said during the interview that's specific, then certainly you can document it and you can take a complaint to the EEOC. But another way is to do your follow-up email communication with them. Thank them for their time, tell them how much you enjoyed meeting with them, and tell them if you weren't selected, that you would appreciate feedback, that going forward, it will help you to put your best foot forward in the future. So you would really appreciate them sending you feedback. And then you need to look at what they say and see if there's any hint in there. Unless you wanted to burn a bridge and ask them directly, I feel like my age had something to do with your decision, and see what they say. But again, it's difficult to have anyone respond to that. So you might just ask for feedback from the premise that is the truth, that going forward, it will help you for your next interview, and see what kind of feedback they give you. Another thing to look at is how they posted the job. Did they say it was a quote unquote young startup? Did they say 2 to 3 years experience? A lot of jobs today, they're asking for 2 or 3 years experience because we know what they're saying. And so you can look at those pieces and see if, in combination with how you felt after your interview, that's what they indicated in the posting. And then again, you can always file a complaint with the EEOC.
Perfect. Thank you so much for that tip and ways to be able to discern that. Perfect. And so how can I determine if my age is the reason I'm not getting an interview?
I think in here, in this question, my advice is you need to look at both sides of really the encounter to determine it. Again, we talked a lot about just how you carry yourself, how you sit, and of course that doesn't apply for not getting the interview. But by the same token, it's the resume. Do you have an objective on your resume? Do you have an address? Because then they're going to say, I don't know, I think they're a little too old for us. I've been in offices in New York over the last year before everything started, and all young, very young people. And it's kind of the mindset. And so when you present your resume and it's not formatted to what they consider today as the standard format, or there's a lot of templates, so it's not even a standard format. And I myself, when I create them, it depends on how much experience and how professional, what type of resume you're presenting. But you have to look at your resume, and you have to look at how you're presenting yourself. If there's a phone screen in your cover letter, what is it you're saying? That might be the key. Other than that, again, if you're looking at the job postings, if you're applying to a lot of jobs that have those keywords, perhaps that's it. They are looking for someone, because young people will generally put their education at the top of the resume with the dates. So if that's what they're looking for, then they're going to go, no, yes, no, yes. So I think you do have to do the best with your resume as far as making it not age you or not identify where you sit. Make sure you're not going back more than that 10 or 15 years, if at all possible. Just all of those things, your areas of expertise. Those are all important, making it as easy for them to see what you bring to the table, but not put you in that box.
Perfect. I love it. And we have about 5 minutes left. And Kathleen asked, wait, did Helen say to remove objective from a resume? And she did. And so Helen, do you want to touch on that again for anyone who may have joined a little bit late or may have missed it?
Yes, objective is not used on resumes much, or as far as I know, at all anymore. It's a professional summary, so that you're basically, you're not, your objective, I mean, years ago again, your objective used to say, this is what I'm looking for. This, your professional summary will say what you bring to the table. So it's not necessarily, I'm looking for, as Angela says, an HR job, but what I bring, HR professional with X number of years experience handling employee engagement or employee benefits or whatever it is. So you're giving them a taste of what you can offer them, but not an objective. Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Perfect. And let's go to the next question. And I want to let everyone know that I dropped Helen's next office hour session, just talking about ageism and overcoming that in your job search. So we'll be having that on September 1st. So don't forget to register. I dropped the link in the chat box. And so how can we overcome initial perceptions made during an interview?
Well, the easiest way to do that is with follow-up. If whatever it is you're trying to overcome, you can send an email thanking them, of course, for their time, telling them how much you appreciate the information they shared with you, and then address the areas that you want to either highlight the positives or clarify something that you feel went unsaid, or reiterate your excitement about the role and the company, or address something specific that you feel didn't go well and try to reverse it in your thank you. But that's pretty much, I think, the best way to approach overcoming those things after an interview, is to send that thank you. It's interesting that statistically, not as many people as I would think follow up with communication after an interview and a thank you for your time. But recruiters and hiring managers do appreciate it. So if you do that and then try to change course with whatever it was you feel you had to correct, you can do that in a follow-up.
Perfect. And Helen, we had somebody asking about your services that you offer with Tanagi. And so I would love to, close us out here by you sharing what you're doing, how you took the leap to go and build your own business now, and the services that you offer.
Oh, thank you. And thank you to all of you for listening. But my services, I have a website you can look at, but it's basically meeting with someone, talking to them again about having them answer some questions, finding out what it is they want to do, whether they're coming back to the workplace, whether they're trying to change careers, whether they're pivoting, whatever it is, whether they're in a place where they're not appreciated and they want to move on. So we talk about that and what their goals are, and then I can create the resume for them that's the best suited for their goals. I also offer some services to kind of update or polish your interview skills, because sometimes those are a little challenging. I've found in my life. So we can spend some time going over those. So that's pretty much what I do. I try to find out what people want to do, what their goals are, and how I can help them achieve the goals, either through writing their resume, helping them identify what it is they want to do, and helping them better meet the interview.
And what a difficult question that always is, right? What do you want to do? I think being in my career, I'm like, I still don't really know what I want to do. So it's always helpful to have somebody else help you sort that out and talk you through all of that.
Right.
And
you have to look at some of the questions. What do you enjoy about your work? What do you not want to stay in your work with? What if you could get paid to do anything, what would it be? So you have all those questions to answer. Yeah.
For sure. So I want to thank you so much, Helen, for being on today. You are so amazing in all of this work that you're doing. And I know at PowerToFly, at least, it's been a really popular request to have a session on ageism and talk about this more. So I'm really happy that we could have you here talking about this. And I want to thank everyone for being on the line today and for participating in the conversation. I love getting to see everyone share resources, share information, and, you know, connect. I think this is one of the really great things that we do at PowerToFly is connecting women and bringing everyone together. So thank you all, and I hope to see you at Helen's next session. And I'll go through the transcript and include resources from today, as well as Helen's resources and Helen's next event. So yeah, I just want to say thank you to everyone today.
I just want to thank you and thank everyone also for your participation and jumping in and your questions. It is, as Nicole said, it's a very enjoyable thing. Thank you.
Yes, thank you all. Have an awesome day, and I hope to see you at our next event. Bye.